Thank you. My name is Pharrell Malone. I reside at 709 Jones Street in Waycross, Georgia. And I wanted to thank you for the opportunity of being able to share and present tonight. There has been basic concerns concerning Confederate statues on public property. One of the things I want to share is that we are recommending and asking that the city would take appropriate actions in removing the Confederate statues from the public property that is owned by the city of Waycross. We found out as we have researched through the Southern Poverty Law Center that these particular monuments were not placed in as during the Civil War or immediately after the Civil War. These monuments were placed after African Americans were being denied rights and voter suppression and all of this during the early 1900s. The Daughters of the Confederacy were very instrumental in making sure that about 800 of these statues existed throughout the United States. And that is the chartering organization here in Waycross that did the same. So what we're recommending is, because the Confederate War spoke of a time when man was against man and this country was divided. True, it is a part of history, but should it be, and we are recommending that it not be, placed on land that is mutually owned by the public. So we're recommending, without a shadow of a doubt, that these Confederate statues and canyons and monuments be removed from property that is owned by the city of Waycross and appropriately placed on other properties that are not owned by the city of Waycross, because all of us own the city of Waycross. If you can recall, and I will direct this directly to Mayor James, he and I attended Troy University together. And in 1984, we made a recommendation to Dr. Ralph Wyatt Adams, who was president of the university. We had with us Dolores Pickett, who's executive assistant to the governor, and Dr. E.D. Nixon, the father of civil rights. We made a presentation to the president that the Confederate flag in 1984 be removed from Troy University's campus. Or we gave him an alternative. We said, if you don't want to move the Confederate flag, we understand. We just want the African-American flag flown at same height in the same quad. If you're going to provide it for one area, you need to provide it for everyone. So even if the city of Waycross somehow decides not to move your Confederate flags or your Confederate monuments, then we are also recommending that the NAACP, Mr. Larry Lockey, and the SCLC, of which I represent, and the Black Action Committee be appropriately endowed with the opportunity to put statues of our history into the public park. So either make a decision to remove them or make appropriate space in the same park at every venue where there is a Confederate statue, that we be able to place ours to represent our history as well. Thank you so very much for your consideration, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Commissioner Solomon Gaines.
Thank you. Get on back at the room alone.
Oh, okay.
I just want to clear. I hear what you're saying. I want to clarify something, because we do have, and Mr. Attorney, you may have to help me with this. The city of Waycross, we do have cemeteries that we own. Some of those cemeteries have those same markers in them. However, the cemeteries are purchased by family, Mr. Attorney, am I right? So are we talking cemeteries or just our parks?
Well, we're talking every piece of property that is owned by the city.
Okay. That's where my confusion
Now,
is coming in.
I would think, this is just my thoughts, that if the Daughters of the Confederacy buys the property from the city, just like we put monuments on a grave, they can put them anywhere.
Right.
But as of right now, my recommendation is that all Confederate flags, paraphernalia, whatever, because it represents a division in our country and not a time for us to come together, be removed off of property that is jointly owned by the city in any place in the city, parks, cemeteries, recreational, whatever areas it is, that they be removed as an idea of being fair to all of the citizens of Waycross, Ware County. I want to thank Mr. Larry Lockey and his leadership in helping to make this concern prevalent and a part of our discussion.
Thank you.
And please forgive me, I'm a pastor and I should know better. I want to honor the mayor and the city commissioners that I should have done at the beginning of my conversation. Thank you so very much.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner.
Rep. Malone,
Yes, sir.
110 years ago, or how long it was, that statue was placed on public property.
Yes, sir.
And in Alabama, when we were investigating, when a law was broken, we did it so much like a bell would ring. What they say, when you break a law, you the only way you unring that bell
Right.
is to cure the problem that caused the breaking of the law.
Yes, sir.
And 110 years ago, however long it was, a law was broken.
In 1910. Yeah.
And that bell has been ringing, and that clock has been going.
Yes, sir.
And I would not, if it is on public property, and this is just my opinion,
Yes, sir.
if we put a statue of Martin Luther King or whatever on public property, we too will break the law.
Yes, sir.
And that bell will begin to ring.
Yes, sir.
So the only way to cure and stop that bell from ringing is to catch the culprit or in the situation that is breaking the law.
Yes, sir.
And we talk about public property. The city owns public property, and I, for one, would not like to even sell. If that statute is moved, I would not be in the position of wanting to sell public property to represent something that represents oppression for citizens of a community. So I wouldn't even think of putting it in a graveyard owned by the city. So, and also the likeness of, would you like to have the likeness of MLK? If you were MLK, your likeness put next to a Confederate statue? No, I don't think so. At least I know I wouldn't. So, but I do thank you for coming and expressing those things. But a bell right now is ringing,
Yes, sir.
and the clock is ticking, and we need to cure what has caused that bell to ring and let the city stop breaking the law, because right now that's what we are doing.
Mr. Commissioner, I stand with you. Simply shows that as an option as to what we did in Troy back in 1984.
Yeah, I understand.
But I am totally with you in support of the fact that my first recommendation is that everything be removed from city-owned property.
And I can agree with that.
Okay? I appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Madam City Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have Mr. Larry Lockey. Mr. Lockey, just keep in mind that you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, and City Commissioners. My name is Larry Lockey. I am President of the Waycross Branch NAACP, which stands for National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. I'm also Georgia State Conference Executive Committee member at large. Let me remind you that on November the 15th, 1910, the Daughters of Confederacy erected on our city property a statue of treasonous Confederate soldiers. The city at that time unlawfully provided a space for that statue, as well as contribute to the funds to build it and to erect it on our city property. Mr. Mayor, City Manager, City Commissioner, there is no lawful agreement between the city and the United Daughters of Confederacy to allow this treacherous symbol to be placed on our city property. This soldier represents a deadly war that was fought to maintain the culture of slavery, suppression, and human beings that look like me. As such, it has become a constant reminder, and they afford to myself, my executive committee, my family, the people of this city, It is a reminder and symbol of the terrible cruelty and injustice of system of slavery, which maintained its authority by the whip, the noose, the rape, and other acts of terrorism and over another race of people. We all know that that monument does not represent history. Look what happened on January the 6th, 2021. Flag flowing inside the Capitol, Confederate flags. That monument is a political statement. This monument was erected to declare white supremacy. We all know that that does not purport to represent a historical event at its location. Now, do you see any else out there? No. The same thing what happened November the 15th, 1910. My folks probably couldn't even go down there to see it. I mean, yes, it was a major event, yes. We had it. Therefore, we all know that that does not purport to represent a historical event at that location. The statue represents something that this community and nation should be deeply ashamed of. Therefore, myself, my executive committee, family, and many citizens of this city respectfully demand that this statue be removed, not displayed in any public way within the city limits of Waycross. I am also respectfully demanding that the tax which the citizens of Waycross have paid over the years to maintain this statue be paid back to us. Give notice to the United Daughters of Confederacy to claim their property. It's their property. It's not our property. From that public space, hopefully within 30 days. That name of park shouldn't even be Phoenix Park. We know what Phoenix Park stands for. It should be changed to U.S. Soldier Park. Also, I am respectfully demanding that the city remove all names from public facilities, streets, buildings, which honor former slave owners who fought fiercely to keep this system of slavery alive. Other cities like Fulton County, Henry County, Athens Clark County, Augusta Richmond, Macon Bibb County, Albany Daughter, DeKalb County, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, etc. These counties have acted in similar manner to remove all their offensive statutes. It's time for Waycross to join them. Thank you. And I await your response.
Thank you.
Mr. Lackey, can you give us your address? You didn't give us.
My address is 818 Sergeant Street, Waycross, Georgia, 31501.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Solomon Gaines, then
you.
Commissioner
Thank you, Mayor.
Davis.
I don't have a question for you, but you can stand there. We did. Our attorney's done some research for us. We pretty much have something he was going to present. We were asked to table that, and at this point, I'm going to request or ask that we do put this back on our next agenda to be discussed. Back to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
And voted on. It was tabled because the person requested that we wait until everybody's here. All commissioners are here, and as you can see tonight, we hadn't all been here for quite a while. So I'm just going to request.
Yep. Can I say something, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
All right. I mean, this is the fourth time, right, since we've been up here, and it's been passed down, tabled, you know. This is the fourth time. Matter of fact, it's the fifth time, right? This is happening. And I know it says, okay, you got to have, 4 commissioners, right? At least 4. Well, sometimes it's been 5, but yet it's still, right? It still never come up and things like that. So how long it gonna wait? I mean,
let me correct you on that.
Yes, ma'am.
It's only been tabled once. Since we asked the attorney, if y'all correct me if I'm wrong, we asked the attorney to do some research, come up with what we can do, and once he did that, and we wanted to bring it up, it did come up during one meeting, and we were asked to table it and that's what we did. We only tabled it once. You all have been here several times, and you have.
Yep.
And I appreciate the history you're giving us and all of that, but it's only been tabled once.
But that was the time when it was voted on, right? And it was only 3 commissioners here. And then, of course, the city attorney came and said, no, we have to have at least 4. Okay? Then it was tabled to the next meeting. When the next meeting came, right, then hey, it wasn't even much on the agenda. Then it came again. We have 2 meetings a month.
Right, that's
Now
right.
here it is, the second meeting in February. I mean, I understand that it was tabled before. Matter of fact, last week it should have been on the agenda, but it
Right.
wasn't on the agenda.
Right.
And then-
You're right.
So how long we gonna go? We gonna keep on going on? We're not gonna
I
forget it.
just made, Mr. Locke, I just made the request
Yes, ma'am.
that we
I
have this
understand.
on our agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah.
As a commissioner, any commissioner can request, and that's my request, to put it on the agenda so we can make a decision at our next meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Mayor.
Davis.
Back to you.
Mr. Lockie, you know, you made a statement, and that jarred back a old memory that I had. My grandfather, Walter Rooks, used to drive allow me just a minute, Mr. Mayor. He used to have a horse and wagon, and we would use that horse and wagon, and we ride the horse and drive the horse and wagon throughout the city, because he would pick up swill, as he called it, to feed the hogs that he owned. And one day we were riding past that, and I looked over, and he said, "Whoa, wait a minute! No, you can't go in that park." And I said, "Why?" He said, "There's a statue that lives in that park, and you can't go in that park." And he said, "Whenever you down here and you walking on the sidewalk or whatever," he said, "you go on the other side, because if people think you coming out of that park, you got a problem." He said it was a man that went in after his dog on that park, and they shot the dog and ran the man off. So he said, that park we can't go in, because if we go in that park, something bad will happen to us. And so whenever we would ride by that park, I would look at that park and think about, I can't go in that park where that statue lives. And we would ride by in silence. And that really, as I grew up, I understood why. But for a while, to think of a child's mind that couldn't understand why there was a certain statue that lived in a park that you couldn't go in. Just think about that for a minute.
Well, I think it's time now that Waycross, the city of Waycross, it's time for a change.
So thank you for
Lovely change.
thank you for bringing that
mean, we
thought
need
up,
to
because
change.
somewhere I
You
had
know.
buried that in the back of my mind.
You know,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We appreciate your coming, and thank you, Mr. Lottie, for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.